In today's economy, more people than ever are looking to buy and sell businesses. But how do you do it? Welcome to the Deal Board, presented by Transworld Business Advisors. Straight talk about real deals and real people. Listen to stories, interviews, and expert advice to help your business sale, merger, or acquisition process. Now, here are your business exit experts, Andy and Jessica.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. And we have a very important episode to talk about today because we're talking about confidentiality, and that is number one in our world. We want to try to keep these sales confidential, and there's one set of people that we really encourage our sellers to keep it confidential from, and that is
your employees.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is an important topic to cover because we get this question from every single business owner we work with, and we do respect and we have empathy that our owners want to involve their employees and they want to be transparent of what they're thinking. But it's so important to keep, even before the sale, during the sale, very confidential from your employees. And we're going to kind of just walk you through those three stages. Why is it important and what do you do before the sale? What do you do during the sale process when you're on the market, you're listed for sale? And then finally, how do you break the news to the employees once the deal is closed?
Yeah, it really is important. We unfortunately have some war stories where it didn't work out for the sellers. And it's very tough. It's a tough thing. Like you said, they want to be transparent.
They do. So I think we'll start before the sale. So before you sign your listing agreement, and in our work with Exit Factors, this is a lot of what we deal with when you're just starting to think about your exit. This is really it's not necessary to involve your employees or tell them what's going on in your thought process. I always say, I think part of the burden of entrepreneurship is we have to ride the roller coaster of our own minds, right? So these up and down phases of, there's some days where you want to pull the trigger and sell the business today. And then there's other days where this is great, I'll own it for 20 more years. This is that before the sale timeframe when you're thinking about your exit strategy, you're putting it together. You might be 1 year out, you might be 10 years out. But I don't think it's appropriate or even good to bring your employees along for that ride.
No, they're on their own journey, right? They're employees for a reason. A lot of people don't want the burden of being a business owner. And I always tell this to business owners. They put their head into that person's position. And it's in your head that you want to make more money. It's in your head you want to grow your business. It's in your head that you want to sell. It's in your head that you want to retire. That's not the employee's journey. The employee is there for different reasons. They want a job. Maybe it's flexible for them so they can raise their family. Maybe it's just, something that they want to do on the side and they have other hobbies or maybe it's a second career, whatever it is. That's not their journey. So I agree with you that it's not their burden to bear. And since it is such a complicated process, there's really no need to involve them at this point.
No, at this point, you don't have any of the answers. You don't know. It's a lot of what ifs. I think it's 5% or less of the population are entrepreneurial. So even if you have employees in the business, even if you have partners in the business or employees that have phantom stock or something like that, they might not be an entrepreneur and they might not have that mindset to be able to ride the roller coaster, take the change as adaptable as some people do. Change is really hard for people to contemplate, especially if their priority is providing a secure income for their family, right?
Yeah, I think you brought up something very important, that they're not looking to sell and make money and get out of a business. They want that consistency. They want to keep going in the business. So for an owner, you really want to make sure that you're protecting them because, as you said, also, it's all about the questions. They're going to have a million questions. You have a million questions when you're going to sell your business and you don't have the answers. So what happens? They just get scared and the seeds of craziness just start to grow and inconsistencies. And you're better off not telling them because you're probably going to do, I would say 90% of the people that we work with, over 90%, do the right thing by their employees.
Yes. Yes.
In the end, they are thinking about their employees. You will think about your employees, but don't feel that this is part of the process that you must tell them of your plans.
Yeah. So I think most people, when we explain that, they get the before the sale part. They're like, okay, I get that. I could be a couple years out. Doesn't make sense to talk to them about it now.
Right.
But a lot of the, I'd say, resistance or challenges we get is once you list the business for sale, now you as an owner are going down the path of selling the company. You know that there is an end or an exit point at some time. You can feel a little bit more empathetic or emotional at this point that you feel like you need to, or you have a responsibility to tell some of your key employees. And now more than ever in this sale process, you really shouldn't, right, Andy?
You should not tell them. Again, you don't have the answers to a lot of questions. Who's going to be the buyer? Are they going to keep me? Are they going to pay me? Are they going to fire me? You don't have those questions. I will tell you, again, 99% of the time, buyers not only do not want to fire the employees, they want to keep them on and make their jobs even more important and more valuable. So I would just tell the sellers, please don't tell your employees at this stage. If you do need confidants, and if you must tell someone, you have to set up those confidants, and hopefully one of them is your business broker. Hopefully, perhaps you'll have some sort of CPA or legal people that are on your side, and you're building that transition team. Again, Exit Factor maybe can help you with that, of course. So you don't want to tell them now, especially now. This is because anything can kill a deal.
Yeah. Well, we've said before on the podcast, like when you're listed for sale, it's more important now than ever that you run the business the best you ever had, right? Because now you're under a microscope. Like even in the process where buyers are just evaluating you, they're doing microscopic inspections of the business, and then you get into due diligence and it's even worse. Right?
Yeah, and the employees should be running the business. They should be doing their jobs, and the owner should not, by this point, be the chief cook and bottle washer, because that is going to devalue or create a challenge in the transition. So the employees should be, feeling pretty good in their position, feeling confident, having a true role in the business and the business's success. And I think that's enough for now. And then you're going to eventually lay it out. And so, even when somebody finds out during this process, we still strongly recommend that they don't say anything. They deflect, or they tell a half truth. And I hate to say that, but they say, hey, yes, we're working with Transworld, or we're working with Exit Factor, and we're working with them to make a better business.
Yeah. We're always, looking for maybe potential partners that can come on and help grow the business.
Acquisitions, franchising. We're looking at all kinds of different things.
Yep. So there are, 4 key things that can happen if you do reveal to your employees that you're selling the business. And we want to cover those. And then we've got some war stories. We've both got a lot of those. But the first thing is, and I think the biggest concern is an early departure. So in general, and we talked about this, people do not like uncertainty or change. And the sale processing, what is it? IBBA averages about 9 months to sell a business right now.
Correct.
Transworld's probably a little faster, but 9 months. So that's eternity for an employee. That's, not knowing what's going to happen in their future. And so they'll start looking for other opportunities. And most of the time they will leave. And that creates a hole in the management team or a hole in the workforce that now is going to force the owner to step in, or, you're going to have to be distracted and hire and train somebody. But early departure is probably the number one negative effect we see with revealing the sale process.
Yes, and sales could go down, and profits could go down, and all kinds of bad things can happen. And again, the employees are probably going to be revered by the new owner, be celebrated, maybe even get promotions and salary raises. Don't tell them now. Really don't. Because it will lead to people leaving. And we've seen it, unfortunately.
Yes, a lot. The second one is legal challenges, your favorite.
I know. It's always a problem when the buyer wants to know that the staff is in place and in good standing. So, early departures could make could eventually be a misrepresentation if they believe that certain employees are going to be there. We've seen some employee agreements and employment agreements in some of these deals, especially if they're management or they have specialty knowledge or licenses. But all that can be handled.
Yeah.
Even right before the closing. But legal challenges, you don't want, and eventually, the buyers could pull out.
Yes. Yeah. There's also one thing we didn't have on this list, but I see a lot of owners that want to compensate their employees at the exit, right? They want to give them a cut of the exit, which is fair. But one of the things that we've talked through some of our clients with is that, you don't incentivize them to leave at the exit either, right?
Right.
So you want to kind of push some of that compensation off.
Now, we could talk about that in my war story, but there's, reason that they actually compensate people to stay through a transition. And again, we're just trying to, everybody wants to keep everything as consistent as possible to sell the business. And you're selling a full widget, and part of that widget is the employees.
Yeah. And so the third thing that can happen is if you have these early departures, if you have departures upon the exit, there can be a delayed transition for you as the owner. So after you sell the business, there's a training and transition period. It can be anything from a few weeks to a few months. But if you lose a key employee, instead of being able to exit your business and move on to your next thing, you may now be working for the new owner, right?
Yeah. And I think it's pretty magical. I don't know why it happens like this, but anybody that tells their employees before the sale causes major disruption and they leave. Everybody that tells them after the sale, I have never seen a major disruption or a mass exodus once the deal has already been done. No. Yes, they might be a little sore. Yes, they might be upset that they weren't told, but they all seem to stay.
Yeah.
Because the new owner gets the chance to tell them what's going on.
Yeah. I always say it is good. Like I was going to say funny, but it's really good how this works out. But I always see the employees end up in either an equal or better position than what they had with the previous owner, especially with good professional buyers that come in wanting to do the right things by these employees. And most of them do. They want to keep this team. The team is what has made the business successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last thing, that they can do if you try to tell them, but even before, if they decide not to leave, they'll use it as a lever to get more compensation, and maybe unreasonable compensation to the point where it could devalue your business.
It could. I mean, if you have to, it could come in a couple different forms. They could demand a raise on payroll, which is going to reduce your SDE, which will reduce your valuation. They could demand a portion of the deal, right, which is going to reduce your net seller proceeds too. So,
and they could start taking confidential things. They start copying customer lists and holding you hostage. They could come in and, disrupt the business or attempt to disrupt the business or threaten to disrupt the business. It's not, again, some employees react negatively. And again, in my war story, I'll talk about how an employee reacted negatively and that was unwound very quickly.
Yes. So we'll get into some war stories because these are like the buckets of issues that we've seen, but obviously there's situational differences.
Sure.
So we worked with a client. She was in a coaching industry. So professional services, she did coaching and consulting with business owners and one functional expertise. And she built a really good business. Like the valuation when we went to market was about $3.5 million. She had 2 near full price offers. So we're evaluating those offers. And she says, you know what? I want to tell my leadership team and I want them to be able to interview the buyers.
Oh no.
Yes. So, so she tells her leadership team, there were 3 gentlemen at the time. They interview the buyers. They're very much in this employee mindset that they don't think this new buyer can execute it properly. They can do it better. They also happen to be in a state where non-competes are not very valid. That's something that we're seeing more and more.
That might be the case everywhere soon.
I know, right? And so they decided that instead of going with the sale, they were going to leave and restart their own business.
Great.
And so a $3.5 million business sale that was on the table for her 1 minute was literally gone the next. She ended up did selling the business about 18 months later, trying to build it back up was just too much for her. So fortunately it did sell, but it sold for $220,000.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly have had situations like that. And the moral of that story is if she would have sold it without telling them, I don't think those three people would have banded together to hurt that new owner.
Yeah.
If the new owner went in there, explained what they were doing, built the pathway forward, told them how important they were, I doubt they would have took that risk.
Yeah, no, both of the offers on the table were from strategic buyers. And
Right.
there was a lot of opportunity for that firm to grow bigger and probably more opportunity for those three individuals than going out trying to start their own business from scratch.
Right. Probably benefits. I mean, all kinds of things that can happen.
Yeah.
So we had a large business for sale. It was in the food distribution business, and it was owned by two people in their 70s. They had 5 children. Two of the children worked in the business. And through some conversations with their estate attorneys and things like that, they really felt like, number one, most of their value, their net worth was tied up in their business, as we see in a lot of entrepreneurs out there. And number two is they really felt that two of the people that worked in the company probably would have fought hard to keep the company and wouldn't probably work with their other siblings to give them their fair share. So they figured that this family was going to be fractured upon their death.
Which is not uncommon.
Right. And they really wanted to enjoy themselves too, right, through this process. And they really felt like they couldn't do it without selling the business. So they hired us to sell the company. And we would go into the company and we would say we were the insurance people because one of the people was the COO, one of the siblings, and the other one was in the accounting department, so which was less significant. And so we went through the process and we found a great strategic buyer, $1 billion company coming in to cash them out. And what happened was they decided to have a meeting before it sold. So they have a meeting before it's sold, and the one person, the COO, stands up and says, I will not cooperate in this process. Stands up and storms out of the meeting. The mom, who was also involved in the business, says, let me take care of this. And she went outside and had a meeting with her son and basically told him, this is why we're doing this. This is why we decided to go forward. You are going to have an amazing career with this new strategic buyer. They've agreed to hire you and keep you on as running this whole unit. You'll still get paid as much or even more than you're getting paid for. But we will tell you, if you don't cooperate, you will be out of the family will.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he came back to the meeting. The business was eventually sold, but it was probably not a good idea for them to do that before. They could have had the meeting afterwards. It put a big, because this was a process that we had to make sure that he was going to continue to cooperate. He was not happy through the process. By the way, the business did sell. He did very well with that new company. He became an executive in that new company. It all worked out. The rest of the family was obviously happy that they felt that their share of the family wealth would be transferred to them eventually. So I think it ended well. It's funny because we had some investment advisors that were part of the deal that thought it was a disaster. And I'm like, no, that they got what they wanted.
Yeah.
And we've had other deals, happen. I'm working on one right now, a very small business. So we'll go to the other side, a very small business where somebody has an employee that, is the business. I mean, basically does it's an awning business. They do a lot of cleaning and repairing, and this person does all the business. And he told the employee that he's thinking of selling, and the employee said, well, if you sell, I'm leaving. So he has no business.
Yeah.
So now he's trying to figure out a way to actually sell the business to this person, and this person doesn't want to buy it.
Yeah.
It's not good.
No. So, I think hopefully we've driven the point home that no matter the situation, it's not a good idea to tell your employees that you're selling the business before it's sold, before closing day, right? Let's specify before closing day. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, I would not even do it closing day. I've seen it done closing day and things get a little crazy, like before the closing and they announce it.
Oh, yeah.
That is not a good idea. Do it afterwards, even if the seller's begging you. And then the other thing is, if you do get caught, and I alluded to this a little bit earlier, if you do get caught, Transworld and Exit Factor, we work to help businesses grow through acquisition. We help them grow through franchising. So you could say, hey, I did hire Exit Factor or Transworld, and I hired them to help us grow. And if you want to buy one of the units, they're $500,000 a piece, and just go to, I'll send you my contact and you go.
Yeah. And then just call us first and give us the heads up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of,
they never call.
And honestly, I think that's a big worry for business owners.
Right.
Most of the time, like I'd say probably 9 times out of 10, even more than that, the employees never find out, right? No. So, but there is a time to tell your employees, this is something that you should consider in your pre-closing process. You should discuss with your buyer, what is the communication timeline? So you brought up in one of the key mistakes I've seen, and actually, I think larger middle market to large firms make this mistake quite consistently.
Yes, they do.
Is they issue the press release before they talk to their employees.
Right.
So once the deal's closed, everything's settled, there should be a communication process you and the buyer have established that you will do together. And the first people you should tell should be your team.
Yeah. And we did this. I've done this at Transworld when I bought our Jacksonville office. We actually took everybody out to lunch along with the seller, and I was the buyer, and we sat down with everybody and we told them, we're the new owners and you're now part of Transworld. And I remember Bianca was there, Bianca Evans, who's with us. And it was just, they were very surprised and they were worried and they thought about leaving. And we assured them that it was going to be a better day. And it certainly has been.
Yeah. I think in those conversations, like as a seller, you want to express gratitude for the people who have helped you build the business. And you also want to generate excitement for the new owner about what type of opportunities they have. And like we've said along this podcast, is usually it ends up, if not the same, better for the team. And if you have a good communication strategy, you have good talking points, when you leave that meeting, the team should be really excited about their future.
Yep, absolutely. Do it right, do it once, and do it after the closing.
Exactly.
Right.
So hopefully this was helpful. We've got a listing of the week and the deal of the week up for you as well. And as always, if you have any questions for us, or you need help from one of the Transworld business advisors, you could reach out to us at thedealboardpodcast.com.
Great episode.
Yep.
Hey, Jessica, you know what time it is?
Money time?
Almost. It's time for listing of the week.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Listing of the Week. I am with Art Warsoff from Transworld Business Advisors of Utah County and Exit Factor, which is a great partnership we have, helping businesses get sold and ready to sell. But you have one that's ready to sell right now, right?
Oh, yes. So got an exciting, it is a local roofing company. It has been long established, over 40 years.
40 years.
Virtually
Wow.
everybody in Utah either has heard of them or thinks they've heard of them, which means they've done some excellent branding. They have a full team of people. They can handle all sorts of services, and we just got to find the right buyer.
And how much are they asking?
Okay, the business is listed for $1,649,000. Last year, they had over $600,000 of STE, and
Yeah.
excited to see what this next year will bring.
Sounds like a great deal. I'm sure you could get financing for that as well.
It is. I've had some SBA people look at it, including somebody that said, "I'm super excited. It's right in my backyard. I can't wait to get this one sold."
All right, anybody out there that wants to move to Utah, because it's a beautiful place of the country to be. So, Art, what's the best way to get in touch with you if somebody wants to learn more?
Okay, you can email me at awarsoff, WARSOFF, @tworld.com, or call me at 385-342-3883.
Excellent. Thanks.
Thank you.
Art.
Hey, Andy, do you know what time it is? It's time for our deal of the week.
Deal of the week.
Sold.
Hello, my name is Pat Bass. I currently serve the West Central Ohio market,
and I've been with Transworld Business Advisors since July of 2017. Over the past 7, almost 8 years, I've had the privilege to partner with business owners across a variety of industries, including my most recent transaction involving an independent pharmacy in small town Ohio. This one was special to me because I've always wanted the opportunity to sell a pharmacy, and over the years, I've called on many of them, but for various reasons, the owners were either not ready or not receptive to the idea of selling their pharmacy business at that time. But about 2 years ago, I continued to follow the Transworld proven process, and I dropped a letter on the door of a small town independent pharmacy here in Ohio. And the owner called me back, and we had a really good conversation. But at that time, he really wasn't ready to move forward. But I had the feeling from our conversation that he may be ready sooner rather than later. And so over the course of 12 months, I dropped another letter, probably about 6 months after that first conversation, and I never heard back from him. And then I dropped another letter, probably about a year after that initial conversation. And this time the owner called me back within a few days, and he wanted to have the conversation around what it would take to sell his business. So we set a face-to-face appointment after business hours. And having not ever sold a pharmacy, it was important for me to demonstrate our confidence in our ability to not only take his 20-year-old pharmacy to market, but also to successfully accomplish what we set out to accomplish, and that is to procure a qualified buyer to purchase this small town independent pharmacy. This is what I believe separates Transworld Business Advisors from other groups who exist in the mergers and acquisitions industry. Because of Transworld's strength, reach, and network, I was able to leverage the resources and tap into the Transworld transaction history and identify almost 24 pharmacy transactions that we had successfully sold. Then I was able to show the owner current pharmacy listings around the country that we were actively marketing and already in the process of procuring buyers for. These sold and active pharmacy listings not only conveyed the power of the Transworld system, it also excited the business owner to know that we were already having conversations with prospective buyers who had an appetite for the pharmacy businesses. Then I used the BRG, or what's known as the Business Reference Guide, to do my homework and do my industry analysis. And I went into my meeting with confidence, and I secured the listing. We signed that marketing agreement on August 12th, 2023, and we closed the deal on September 18th, 2024, almost exactly 1 year and 1 month. Over that time frame, I screened more than a dozen prospective buyers, and to my surprise, 90% of them that were interested in the business were not even pharmacists or from the pharmaceutical industries. They were individuals who had that idea of owning a pharmacy really intrigued them. But when it was all said and done, we ended up selling and ended up finding just the right buyer. And it just happened to be a private-owned national pharmacy brand who acquired this beautiful little small town independent pharmacy. There was an instant connection between the buyer and the seller, and it was truly another example of doing good deals for good people. Now, I do want to reiterate that this business was in a small town. In fact, it was the only pharmacy in this small Ohio town with a population of a little over 1,700 people. So regardless of the size of your business or the size of your town, if you're a business owner and you're considering selling your business, let us go to work for you. Transworld Business Advisors of West Central Ohio would love to meet with you confidentially and learn about your business. And to find us, just type Transworld Business Advisors of West Central Ohio in your search browser, or feel free to call our office at 614-265-3933.
Thanks for tuning into the show today. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends on social media. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app. If you have questions, would like to appear, or have suggestions for topics for the show, get in contact with us through our website, thedealboardpodcast.com. www.transworldbusinessadvisors.com.